Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Katie. I'm your host, Katie Schaefer, and we are in the studio. Hey, buddy. Probably can't see him, but our Puggle is laying right beside me. He is the ultimate snuggle bug. If you wanted a great dog who was active when you wanted to be active, but chill when you wanted to be chill, a Puggle would be the breed I would suggest. 10 out of 10. They are a pug beagle mix, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. Like I said, the pug that wants to be chill and then the beagle that wants to be active. Granted, our Puggle is going to be 16 in March, so he's not going to be like going out for runs or going on crazy long walks, but he does in the summertime when it's nice outside. We'll go for like a 2-mile walk and he does just fine, but then all winter long he just wants to kind of hibernate and be in the house and be warm and snuggle up on the couch, and you could take a nap and he would gladly nap with you. So if you are in the dog market, I suggest a Puggle. But we also have 2 other dogs that are equally as chill and cozy when they want to be and as active as they want to be when you are. So anyways, if you hear some snoring, that's who is snoring. It's not me. It's not my husband. It's the dog. On this week's episode of What's Happening in the Group Chat, we are cranking out some just like early podcasts here. I wanted to make sure that we had a couple episodes ready to rip to publish on the channel, and we are just learning as we go here. I'm not claiming to be an expert in anything. I asked ChatGTP literally everything on everything podcast related because I don't know what I'm doing, and I literally am a team of one. I am your producer, editor, podcast host, graphics department, and all the things. I am a one-man, one-woman show, and that's totally fine with me. I am very independent, and I enjoy projects, and I kind of, I don't know if this is like a good mentality or like shows trauma, but for me, growing up, there were always times where if you wanted something done and you wanted it done well, you just do it yourself, because sometimes you can't count on other people to do it, or they won't follow through, or they forget about it, or whatever the reason that shit falls through the cracks. But growing up through high school and college and beyond, it was kind of like, if you want something done, you're going to have to do it yourself, and then you can control how well it's done and how fast it gets done. And so that's what we're doing with the podcast, with Coffee with Katie. But eventually we will have guests on the show, and we'll actually like talk about fun things and talk about what people are doing in the world. But yeah, for now we're just kind of doing some intro podcasts and just kind of getting our feet wet, dipping our toes in, and hopefully people start following along. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now with the podcast, and it'll come together and we'll get better at it, and it'll be less rusty. A year from now, we'll probably watch these episodes back and be like, holy shit, that was like pretty ghetto as far as the setup and the equipment and all of that sort of thing. We're not big production level podcasts kind of deal. The budget is just not there to, have a studio and to have a whole team and all the things. We're making do with what we've got, and it'll be just fine. I'm not too worried about it. But again, like I mentioned in earlier episodes, I've always wanted to have a podcast. I just love talking about certain things. I love talking to certain people or lots of people, and I just feel like it'll be kind of a fun thing to do. So once we kind of get rolling here, I feel like it'll just kind of take off on its own. So that's pretty fun. I really like the social media trends of like granny hobbies. I think it's so funny, and I absolutely love it. So if you're unfamiliar with what that means, is like a lot of millennials, Gen Z, whoever else is younger than us, whatever, a lot of people are getting into what they are calling granny hobbies, which essentially is like gardening, plants, crocheting, knitting, sourdough. A lot of women are getting into canning, gardening and being able to like homestead essentially. That's kind of a buzzword or a well-known topic, I guess you'll call it, of conversation. But I just think it's so funny because like I can remember, I was telling someone this the other day, I can remember when I was a kid, my mom would plant a garden and it was pretty small. She would plant like carrots, radishes, beets, maybe some cucumbers and zucchini, and just like a few easy to grow vegetables that needed very little maintenance and could kind of take care of themselves essentially. My mom also had a rhubarb patch. We would go strawberry picking every summer and do that sort of fun stuff, but she was never one to like can tomatoes or make like 30 quarts of salsa and tomato sauce. Like that was not my mom, but I have a feeling that's what my grandma did. And my mom just kept the things up that she wanted to keep up on, which is totally fine. Like totally validating that you can do whatever the hell you want to do. It's your life. Do what makes you happy. But I think it's really funny that, not funny, I shouldn't say that. I think it's interesting to see what millennials are choosing to pick back up in our lives, because I think at some point in our family tree and our family history and just like the evolution of life, that women got more educated, they went to college and they got a corporate job or a big girl job, and they didn't have time to do the gardening and to do the canning and the food preservation and to bake bread. So we became more reliant on grocery stores, and that's totally fine. I think there's a time and place for all of that in all of our lives, in every culture and every society. But I just really love it because I see, and maybe this is my algorithm and that's what Instagram is pushing to me, and that's fine because I like it. And I just think it's really interesting that there are so many women who are like teaching themselves how to garden. Like literally, I have a whole ChatGTP thread going that is about gardening for my zone of the world. We're in rural eastern Wisconsin, so it's cold, kind of a short-ish summer, not super short. It doesn't get really hot, but it does get hot. We're pretty fertile soil. It rains a fair amount here, like not a crazy amount. We're not like Amazon rainforest by any means, but we're also not, Arizona desert. It's somewhere kind of in between. It's here in the Midwest. And it's just, for me, I was never taught how to garden because my mom only did what she wanted to garden. Like she only picked certain things. And at some point in my childhood, she just stopped. Like one summer, she just decided she wasn't going to plant a garden. I think she got frustrated because nobody was helping her. And she just got fed up with it and said, screw it, I'm not planting a garden anymore. We're done. And so that skill of learning how to plant a garden, like where to organize your rows, what plants to put next to each other, all that sort of stuff was lost because my mom never really taught it to me. So I think there's a lot of women who are about my age or older or younger who are having to teach themselves how to do a lot of these granny hobbies. I just think it's hilarious. And also, I'm very happy to say that I'm not alone in this. There's a lot of people I talk to who are like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to plant my garden for the first time this year. Or, I started gardening in big flower pots and then I got a raised bed and now I'm doing an in-ground garden. And kind of the same thing with like knitting, crocheting, sourdough, baking in general. A lot of women, or canning, a lot of women are just like figuring it out as we go and making mistakes and learning from them. And hopefully this cycle doesn't repeat itself where we pick up all these granny hobbies, perfect them, get really good at them, have kids, teach our kids these granny hobbies, and maybe our kids keep them up, keep doing them and hold on to that knowledge, and then they pass it down to their kids. So like my grandkids. But that's not for certain. And this cycle could repeat itself where we get really into granny hobbies, my kids are into granny hobbies, and they keep doing the ones that they want to do, and then their kids stop doing granny hobbies, and then it, like, my great grandkids have to like restart this cycle in 70 years. I don't know, it just seems ridiculous. But gardening is one thing that I really wanted to do here this summer. I actually have an opportunity to garden and all of that because last summer we moved in May, like Memorial Day weekend time frame. We were packing and moving and doing all the things, and going from one place to another during that time is kind of when you should be putting your garden in for certain plants and certain vegetables and things like that. And it just was not a priority last summer because we got to this house and there was other things that we had to get done before I would plant a garden. I didn't even really plant any flowers last summer. Normally I do a ton of beautiful annual flowers just in pots and things like that, and just to have nice flowers all summer long around the house. And because we moved Memorial Day weekend, then I didn't plant anything leading up to that because I knew we were moving. So I didn't plant anything at the old house because I was like, I don't want to have to move these plants, and what if they get wrecked or fall over or tip over and then they're just destroyed. I didn't want to deal with that. And I also felt a little bit guilty because I'm like, if I plant these beautiful flowers in these huge pots and they're so heavy, I feel bad or guilty asking people to like pick them up and move them. So I made the executive decision last summer that I would not plant anything prior to moving. And then we moved, and I really just kind of ran out of time. By the time I had come up for air to think about even doing flowers, it was like July 4th. So I ended up going hard on mums in the fall. Loved it. And we're already thinking about what we want to do this spring and summer for flowers and gardening and all of that jazz. So it should be a pretty good time in that regard. But granny hobbies, gardening is definitely one of them. Number 2, I want to start making my own bread. I am not into the sourdough life currently. I will buy sourdough from people who bake it themselves. I just don't have like the give a shit to do sourdough. I would rather make just like a simple yeast bread, like a simple ingredient like flour, salt, water, yeast combination, and make my own sandwich bread or make my own rolls or bagels or English muffins or whatever the case might be, the recipe might be, just because I don't want to put in the time to fuck around with sourdough. For me, it's just like the juice isn't worth the squeeze when it comes to sourdough. I don't have any problems tolerating gluten or just regular schmegular bread. So I don't need to eat sourdough in order to not have a gastrointestinal explosion. So I would really love to start making some of my own bread, but it's not a huge priority of mine at the current time. I do make my own bone broth. I make my own stock, like chicken stock or beef stock. I do that. I use beef tallow and things of that nature, but I'm not currently making my own. I think again, it's a really long process, and we don't currently butcher any cattle. So in the future, hopefully we will be, and then I can have the butcher save all the suet and the fat and all that and make all the things with it. And I could probably do, if I did one big batch a year, I could probably get away with doing one batch a year and being fine, because it's literally just me who would be using it. And I would make like my beef tallow face lotion, like body lotion. I could probably make some beef tallow candles if I really, really wanted to. Not that I need to. I would love, I would love to do that. You can also use beef tallow like you use butter to cook with, which is really great too. But anyways, that's kind of like granny hobbies I'm trying to get into and the ones that I'm currently doing. I do have a sewing machine and I do know how to sew. It's been a minute since I've actually physically sewn anything. So I would need to definitely refresh the mind on how to like thread the bobbin and do all that jazz. And once I got her set up, it'd be fine. But it's been a minute. I wanted to figure out how to crochet or knit. And to be honest, I don't remember which one it was. Whichever one is like a little bit easier. Because again, grandma hobbies. My grandma, she had a Hobby Lobby's worth of yarn in her house when she died. She was a collector of yarns, we'll call it. Definitely the epitome of grannies. Like she loved to cook, she loved to bake. She was a knitter crocheter, not so much sewing, but she definitely did sew a touch. Flowers, I don't know how much of a garden she had, but to be honest, I don't know a ton about my grandma. That's a totally different side tangent. But I would love to learn how to crochet or knit because I found out or like I figured this out when my niece was born. So my sister had a baby girl back in November. And immediately like the maternal instinct to want to like create something for the baby, like create a, make a blanket, create some sort of like cozy environment for her. That instinct turned on like that. And for me, I was like, well, I can't teach myself that fast and crank out a good project that fast because I don't have the time to crank out a baby blanket when I've literally never crocheted a day in my life. Have no idea how to do one crochet stitch at all. So I was like watching YouTube videos, and there's obviously lots of we'll call them influencers on Instagram and TikTok who they'll teach you how to crochet and knit and all the things. And I love that and I want to do that, but we just aren't quite there yet. So I ended up buying one off of Etsy, which again is kind of the next best thing because the great part about Etsy is there's people out there who literally can make anything from scratch. And they'll make it custom and personalized and it's great. It's homemade. It's not from Amazon. And you feel a little less guilty about a store-bought gift when it's not really store-bought, but it's not homemade, but it kind of is homemade. I don't know. It's a little bit of a gray area. But that's a granny hobby that I would love to get into. And I have lots lots of who also are into this kind of granny hobby. I should say they're friends on Instagram. People that I met once, we followed each other and we just kind of have kept in touch that way. But it's one of those deals where I just have to like sit down and teach myself and like force myself to do it. I'm trying to get back into reading, as like juvenile as that sounds. Like, oh, you're trying to get into reading again? How cool. No, I think reading is kind of like a lost art, and our attention spans aren't built for reading anymore. We are so used to just like quick grabbing your phone, doom scrolling for 3 hours when you could have been reading a paperback book for 3 hours and actually learning something, most likely. Not saying that some scrolling isn't educational, because I do learn a lot of things through my scrolling and through research that I do on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it might be, ChatGPT. But I'm trying to get back into reading because I think there's something about disconnecting from our phones that helps us just like connect back to how we are supposed to be as a society and how like our generations before us, like they read all the time. They read the Bible, they read different storybooks, different chapter books, they read to their kids. Like reading is just such a fundamental part of our human nature and our human evolution as a culture and as a society. So I'm just trying to get back into it. And to be honest, as a kid, I read a ton. I probably, out of all of my siblings, I definitely read the most. And then for whatever reason, it kind of went away. Probably high school, college, when you were forced to read certain things and you necessarily didn't want to read them, but you had to for your class. And then you get out of college and you just start working, and then you don't have to read anything, so you don't read anything. So I'm trying to get back into that. Currently, my top like reading genres, we'll call them, mainly focus on like pregnancy, postpartum, childbearing, child development, anything that has to do with just like the matrescence part of female life, we'll call it. So there's this concept of matrescence, which is like adolescence, but it's matrescence. So adolescence is going from a child to an adult. Adolescence. Matrescence is going from a female to a mother. So, or a young woman to a mother. Matrescence. You're changing in maternal status, and going through matrescence is the whole process of getting pregnant, being pregnant, delivering a baby, and then postpartum into the rest of your life. Because once you have a baby, you are now a mother until you die. You're also still a woman, and you're also still a wife and all the things, but you are also a mother. And the act of matrescence is such a huge evolutionary and biological transformation that I think a lot of women don't realize. And it is a huge change in hormones, a shift in priorities, a change in your body, and just how your body responds to things, and just it changes a lot of how you are and who you are. So I'm just reading a lot about that phase of life because I don't think you can be overeducated on any of that stuff. And I think, I mean, too much information maybe is a bad thing, whatever. But I also think information and education is an advantage. If you are aware, like the book I'm reading right now is called The Fourth Trimester. And it talks all about postpartum, essentially, like the fourth trimester. Everyone talks about a mom in her first, second, and third trimester. And then the baby's born and it's like, poof, done. Like she is fine. The baby is born, the baby is fine, the mom is fine. Go about your day. When really the fourth trimester in not ancient times, but let's say in earlier society, the fourth trimester was when like your village came around. And I immediately, my brain goes to like Native American culture, where the women who have just given birth, they are surrounded by elders, whether it's their mom and their grandma and their aunts, and just like all of the community elders who are women surround them and feed them and help take care of the baby and help take care of the mom, because the mom just went through this huge transformation and this huge process. And in modern day culture, a lot of women who have a baby, people come over to your house and they ask to hold the baby and what can we do for the baby and the baby and the baby and the baby, but no one cares about the mom, or no one asks, hey mom, can I get you something? Can I do this for you? Can I make you a meal? Can I bring you this? What do you like? There's a lot of people who forget about caring for the mom. And so for me, I'm trying to make sure that I'm educated and equipped with this knowledge, because I want to try to have a decent experience. And also, I think if you know to ask for certain things, then you will be less disappointed. So being able to ask your mother-in-law or your mom to come help you prep meals prior to giving birth. Or when you do have the baby, hey, I want you to come over every Monday and just help me with laundry or help me clean my house or help me go grocery shopping. Whatever that looks like for you as a mom, I think it's just powerful to know that ahead of time, because if you don't know that ahead of time, how are you supposed to how are you supposed to know unless you read about it or you hear about it from other moms? So that's kind of what I'm reading currently. Other books that I've read that I really like are Real Food for Fertility and Real Food for Pregnancy. Like I mentioned before, I do have a friend of mine who is in her second trimester with her second baby, and she was pretty sick with her first trimester. If I remember correctly, with her first baby, she wasn't as sick, and just for whatever reason, this baby, she just is a little bit more. And it's funny because she had such strong symptoms and such strong nausea and food aversions that she asked her OB to do a scan to make sure it wasn't twins, just because her symptoms were so much stronger than in her first pregnancy. Turns out not twins. I don't know what the gender is. She does know. She hasn't told us yet. We are waiting to hear, eagerly waiting. But it's one of those things where if you're not feeling good, like food just sounds terrible and it's not something you even care about. You just like, I want to feel better. But the book Real Food for Pregnancy talks about like managing your blood sugar, managing what you can eat, making sure you're eating often enough to not let your blood sugar drop, and also being aware that certain foods impact people differently. So being educated on how your body responds to different fruit or different meat or different carbs definitely helps you just like be more aware and better prepared. So those are kind of the books that I'm reading, and that is my rant for the day. Thanks for listening to another episode of Coffee with Katie, and we will see you next time. Have a good day, guys.